What do you do when the world tells you to disappear, but your music refuses to be silenced? Leipzig, Germany. 1856. The Gewandhaus Concert Hall. A woman stands backstage, 37 years old, a widow, 7 children at home. Her hands tremble not from fear, but from 2 years of silence. 2 years since she last touched a piano in public. 2 years since her husband died in an asylum, leaving her alone with mouths to feed and a legacy to protect. She can hear the audience through the curtain. Whispers, judgment. A widow, performing How Improper. She should be home, in mourning, caring for her children. Women don't belong on stage, especially not mothers. The concertmaster appears. Frau Schumann, they're ready for you. She takes a breath. Her black mourning dress rustles as she moves. The stage lights wait. The piano waits. And beyond that curtain, a room full of people who believe she should not exist in this space. But Clara Schumann walks forward anyway. This moment, this defiant step toward the piano, wasn't the first time Clara had to prove the world wrong. It wasn't the first time she had to choose between survival and surrender. And it wouldn't be the last. To understand why she was here, why this moment mattered, we have to go back. Back to the beginning. Back to a childhood that was never really hers. Leipzig, 1823. Clara Wieck was 4 years old, and she couldn't speak. Not a word. Not a sound. Her father, Friedrich Wieck, a respected piano teacher in Leipzig, worried. Doctors had no answers. Her mother, Marianne, tried everything. But Clara remained silent, locked in a world the adults couldn't reach. Until the day her father sat down at the piano. He was teaching a lesson. A student fumbled through a Beethoven sonata. Friedrich corrected, demonstrated, played the passage perfectly. And there, in the corner of the room, Clara watched. Her small fingers moved in the air, mimicking the shapes her father made on the keys. Friedrich noticed. That night, he lifted Clara onto the piano bench, placed her tiny hands on the keys. And something extraordinary happened. Clara played. Not the fumbling of a child, not random notes. She played what she had heard. Perfectly. By ear. By memory. As if the music had always been inside her, waiting for permission to emerge. Friedrich Wieck saw something in that moment. Not his daughter. Not a child who needed nurturing. He saw an experiment. A proof of concept. A way to demonstrate his teaching methods to the world. And so began the making of Clara Wieck, child prodigy. Friedrich's training was brutal. Hours at the piano every day. Finger exercises until her small hands ached. Theory composition, sight reading. No play. No friends. No childhood. When Clara made mistakes, there were consequences. Locked in her room. Denied food. Verbal abuse that cut deeper than any physical punishment. You will be perfect, Friedrich told her, or you will be nothing. Clara learned to be perfect. At 5, she could play Beethoven. At 7, she was composing her own pieces. At 9, on October 20th, 1828, she walked onto the stage of the Gewandhaus, the very hall where decades later she would stand as a widow and performed her first public concert. The audience was astonished. A 9-year-old girl playing with the precision and emotion of a master. Clara took her bow, and Friedrich smiled. Not with pride in his daughter, but with satisfaction in his creation. The reviews called her a prodigy, a genius, the next Mozart. Friedrich called her his greatest achievement. And Clara had no words for what she felt. She had barely learned to speak, and already her voice belonged to someone else. The tours began: Vienna, Paris, Berlin. Clara performed for royalty, for aristocrats, for anyone who would pay to see the child prodigy. She played in grand halls and intimate salons. She received gifts, accolades, flowers. And through it all, Friedrich controlled everything. The money Clara earned went to him. The schedule, the repertoire, the image, all his. Clara was his instrument, his product, his proof that his teaching methods worked. She was 12 when she began to notice the young man in her father's studio. Robert Schumann, 21 years old, a piano student who had come to Leipzig to study with Friedrich Wieck, hoping to become a great virtuoso. Robert had damaged his right hand trying to strengthen his fingers with a mechanical device. His dreams of being a concert pianist were over. But he could still compose, and he was brilliant at it. Clara would practice, and Robert would listen. Sometimes he'd linger after his lessons just to hear her play. There was something in the way he looked at her, not as a prodigy, not as Friedrich's creation, but as a person. As Clara. She was 13 when she realized Robert saw her as no one else did. He saw her music, not her father's ambitions, not the perfect performances, the real music, the emotion beneath the notes. Clara kept practicing, kept touring, kept being the prodigy everyone expected. But something had shifted. For the first time in her life, Clara wondered, what would it be like to play for herself, to choose her own music, to live a life that wasn't scripted by her father? She was 16 when that wondering turned into something more dangerous. She was 16 when she fell in love. It started with a look. Clara was 16. Robert was 25. And Friedrich Wieck noticed everything. Robert had become more than just a student in the Wieck household. He was a lodger, living in their home, eating at their table, composing late into the night. His music was wild, passionate, unconventional. Everything Friedrich's structured, disciplined approach was not. Clara found herself drawn to Robert's room, listening to him compose. He would play fragments of melodies, trying different harmonies, talking to himself about musical ideas that no one else seemed to understand. But Clara understood. One evening, Robert played something new, a piece he called Chiarina, a musical portrait of Clara herself. The melody was tender, playful, full of life. It captured something about her that she had never heard before. Not the prodigy, not the perfect performer, just Clara. She stood in the doorway, listening. When the last note faded, she whispered, "That's beautiful." Robert turned. Their eyes met. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. Friedrich saw it too. The next day, he called Robert into his study. "You need to leave," Friedrich said. "Find other lodgings. Your presence here is inappropriate." Robert moved out, but the damage was done. The seed was planted. They began writing letters. Secret, hidden letters that Clara would slip to trusted friends to deliver. Robert's letters were passionate, poetic, full of musical metaphors and declarations. Clara's were more cautious, aware of the danger, but equally real. "I think of you constantly," Robert wrote. "When I compose for you. When I hear music, I imagine you playing it. You are my muse, my inspiration, my everything." Clara wrote back, "I feel the same, but what can we do? My father will never allow it. You know this." And she was right. Friedrich Wieck had plans for Clara. Plans that did not include a poor, unstable composer with a damaged hand and uncertain prospects. Friedrich wanted Clara to marry wealth status security, or better yet, not marry at all. Keep touring, keep earning, keep being his instrument. When Friedrich discovered the letters, his rage was terrifying. He confronted Clara, screamed at her, called her ungrateful, foolish, ruined. He forbade her from seeing Robert, from writing to him, from even speaking his name. And then Friedrich did something calculated. He took Clara on tour, far from Leipzig, far from Robert. Months on the road, performing in distant cities, surrounded by Friedrich's watchful presence. Clara obeyed. What choice did she have? She was 17. She had no money of her own, no independence, no life outside what her father allowed. But Robert didn't give up. He wrote to her at every stop. Love letters that found their way through friends, through musicians, through anyone who would help. He composed music for her, the Davidsbündler Tänze, the Kinderscenen pieces that spoke what words could not. And slowly, Clara found her courage. She wrote back, "I love you. I will always love you. But my father will never consent. Never." Robert's reply was simple. "Then we will fight." It took 3 years. 3 years of separation, of stolen letters, of Friedrich's increasingly desperate attempts to keep them apart. He spread rumors about Robert, claimed he was an alcoholic, mentally unstable, a fortune hunter. He told Clara that Robert didn't really love her, that he only wanted her fame and money. But Clara knew better. In 1839, when Clara turned 20, she made a decision. She wrote to Robert, "Ask me to marry you, officially, and if my father refuses, we will take him to court." Robert was stunned. Taking a father to court to secure permission to marry was almost unheard of, scandalous, public. It would ruin reputations, destroy relationships, make headlines. But Clara was done being Friedrich's creation. She was ready to be herself. Robert asked. Friedrich refused. And on July 15, 1840, Clara Wieck and Robert Schumann stood before a judge in Leipzig. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, musicians, curious onlookers. Everyone wanted to see the prodigy rebel against her father. Friedrich argued his case passionately. Robert was unsuitable, poor, unstable. Clara was too young, too naive, manipulated by a schemer. Clara's lawyer presented evidence, letters showing Friedrich's controlling behavior, his financial exploitation, his abuse, testimony from friends who witnessed Friedrich's cruelty. And then Clara testified. She stood in front of the judge, in front of her father, in front of the world, and she spoke. "I love Robert Schumann," she said, her voice steady. "I choose him. Not for his money, he has none. Not for his status, he is a struggling composer. I choose him because he sees me, because he loves me, not what I can do, but who I am. And I will not spend my life being my father's possession." The courtroom was silent. The judge deliberated. And on August 1, 1840, he ruled in Clara's favor. She was granted permission to marry without her father's consent. 1 month later, on September 12, 1840, the day before Clara's 21st birthday, Clara Wieck became Clara Schumann. Friedrich Wieck did not attend the wedding. He would not speak to his daughter for years. But Clara didn't care. She had won. She had chosen love. She had chosen herself. And for a brief, beautiful moment, everything seemed possible. The first years of marriage were everything Clara had dreamed of. Robert and Clara Schumann were partners in every sense, He composed, she performed. He wrote reviews and edited a music journal. She premiered his works and built his reputation. They were collaborators, lovers, best friends. Leipzig welcomed them. The musical community that had watched the courtroom drama now celebrated the famous couple. Invitations poured in. Concert opportunities. Commissions. Clara was 21 and married to the man she loved. She was still touring, still performing to sold-out halls. But now the money she earned was hers. The choices were hers. And then on September 1st, 1841, their first child was born. Marie. Clara held her daughter and felt something she had never felt before. Not the pressure to be perfect, not the fear of failure, just love. Pure, uncomplicated love. But motherhood brought complications. Clara had spent her entire life as a performer. Her identity, her purpose, her value, all tied to the piano. Now, suddenly, she was supposed to be a mother, to stay home, to prioritize the baby over the music. Society expected it. Even Robert expected it. You should rest. Robert told her when Marie was 3 months old. Focus on the baby. There will be time for concerts later. But Clara couldn't rest. She was Clara Schumann. She had fought too hard to be just a wife and mother. She went back on tour when Marie was 6 months old, left the baby with a nurse, performed in Dresden, Berlin, Hamburg. The reviews were glowing. The audiences adored her. But guilt followed her everywhere. Was she a bad mother? Was she selfish? Could she be both a concert pianist and a parent? The answer came faster than she expected. Another baby. Elise, born in 1843. Then Julie in 1845. Ludwig in 1848. Ferdinand in 1849. Eugenie in 1851. Felix in 1854. And finally another son in 1854, who died in infancy. 8 pregnancies in 13 years. Clara's life became an impossible balancing act. Tour while pregnant, give birth, recover for a few weeks, go back on tour, leave the children with nurses, come home exhausted, be criticized for being away, be criticized for being too ambitious. And through it all, Robert's music suffered. Robert Schumann was a brilliant composer, but he was fragile, moody, depressive. He struggled with self-doubt, with insecurity, with the pressure of being married to someone more famous than himself. Because that's what Clara was. More famous, more successful. She earned more money, got better reviews, commanded larger audiences. And it ate at Robert. He tried to be supportive. He encouraged Clara's career, attended her concerts, praised her talent. But there was tension, resentment that neither of them wanted to acknowledge. And then slowly, something else began to emerge. Something darker. It started with headaches, ringing in his ears, trouble sleeping. Robert blamed it on stress, on overwork, on the demands of raising a large family while trying to compose. But it got worse. In 1850, Robert accepted a position as music director in Dusseldorf. It should have been a triumph, financial stability, recognition. But Robert couldn't handle the job. He was disorganized, bad at leading rehearsals, unable to connect with the orchestra. The whispers started. He's not well. Something's wrong. He's deteriorating. Clara tried to protect him, made excuses, covered for his mistakes, took on more concerts to support the family while Robert's career faltered. But by 1853, Robert's mental state was undeniable. He heard voices, heard music that wasn't there, angelic choruses singing in his head day and night, driving him mad. He would sit at his desk trying to compose tears streaming down his face. "Make it stop," he begged Clara. "Make the music stop." But Clara couldn't. No one could. Robert became paranoid, violent. There were days he didn't recognize Clara, days he accused her of plotting against him, days he locked himself in his study, screaming at the voices only he could hear. Clara was terrified. She had 7 children, the youngest just a baby. She was still touring, still trying to hold everything together. And her husband, her brilliant, loving husband, was disappearing before her eyes. On February 10th, 1854, Robert told Clara he loved her. He kissed her. And then he told her, "The angels are calling me. It's time." Before Clara could react, Robert ran out of the house in his nightshirt. It was winter. Snowing. He ran to the Rhine River, and he jumped. Boatmen saw him, pulled him from the icy water, brought him back to shore, shivering, delirious, broken. Robert Schumann had tried to kill himself. Clara found him soaked, traumatized, incoherent, and she knew. She knew it was over. Not the love, but the life they had built. The doctors came. They diagnosed him with what they called incurable madness. They said he needed to be institutionalized for his safety, for Clara's safety, for the children. On March 4th, 1854, Robert Schumann was taken to a private asylum in Endenich near Bonn. Clara watched the carriage take him away, watched her husband disappear down the road, and she didn't know if she would ever see him again. She was 34 years old. She had 7 children, a mortgage, bills, no income except what she could earn from touring. And the doctors told her, "Don't visit, don't write. It will only agitate him. Let him forget. Let him heal." So Clara obeyed. She stayed away, worked, performed, sent money for his care. And she waited. For 2 years and 4 months she waited. The years between 1854 and 1856 were the darkest of Clara's life. Robert was locked in an asylum, deteriorating. Clara was forbidden from visiting doctors' orders. They believed her presence would worsen his condition, trigger violent episodes, prevent recovery. So Clara stayed away, and it destroyed her. She would lie awake at night imagining what Robert was going through. Was he alone? Was he frightened? Did he remember her? Did he hate her for not coming? She poured her grief into work. She had no choice. 7 children needed food, clothing, education. Robert's medical bills were astronomical. The small savings they had accumulated evaporated within months. Clara went on tour, relentless, exhausting tours. Leipzig, Vienna, Berlin, Prague. She performed night after night, traveled by train and carriage, slept in unfamiliar beds, ate when she could. She would perform Beethoven and Chopin, take her bows, smile at the audience, and then she would return to her dressing room and weep. Letters arrived from Endenich, brief reports from doctors. Robert's condition was unchanged. Some days he was lucid. Some days he was violent. Some days he didn't speak at all. Clara wrote letters she could never send. "I miss you. I love you. I'm so sorry. Please come back to me." But Robert wasn't coming back. In July 1856, Clara received word. Robert's condition had worsened dramatically. He was refusing food, fading. The doctors believed he had only days left. And finally, Clara was allowed to see him. She took a train to Endenich, walked up the path to the asylum. Her heart hammered. What would she find? Would Robert recognize her? Would he be angry that she had stayed away? The doctor met her at the door. "Frau Schumann, you should prepare yourself. He is not the man you remember." Clara nodded. She had already prepared. For 2 years, she had prepared. They led her to Robert's room, a small, sparse space, a bed, a chair. Robert lay there, skeletal eyes sunken, breathing shallow. "Robert," Clara whispered. His eyes opened, focused on her. And for a moment, just a moment, she saw recognition, saw the man she loved looking back at her. "Clara," he breathed. She took his hand. It was cold, frail, nothing like the strong hands that once played piano beside her. "I'm here," she said. "I'm here now." Robert smiled, a tiny, weak smile, and then he closed his eyes. Clara sat with him for hours, talked to him, told him about the children, about her concerts, about how much she missed him. She didn't know if he heard, but she needed to say it. The next day, July 29th, 1856. At 4 in the afternoon, Robert Schumann took his last breath. Clara was holding his hand. She was 36 years old, a widow, mother of 7, and utterly, completely alone. The funeral was small, private. Clara stood by the grave, her children beside her, and watched as they lowered Robert into the ground. And then it was done. The love story that had defied her father, scandalized society, survived poverty and children and mental illness, it was over. Clara returned to Leipzig, to the house, to the piano, to the life she now had to build alone. The grief was overwhelming. Some days Clara couldn't get out of bed, couldn't eat, couldn't think beyond the crushing weight of loss. But she had 7 children, 7 mouths to feed, 7 futures to secure. And she had debts, Robert's medical bills, household expenses, everything. Clara did the math. She needed to tour, constantly, earn enough to pay off the debts, support the family, save for the children's education. But society had other ideas. The letters started arriving almost immediately. Well-meaning friends, concerned relatives, judgmental strangers. "You must retire now. It's only proper. A widow should be in mourning, not on stage. Think of your children. They need their mother at home. No respectable woman performs in public after such a tragedy." Clara read the letters and felt something shift inside her. All her life, people had told her what to do. Her father, society, even Robert in his way. She had been controlled, managed, directed, criticized, and she was done. Clara Schumann was not going to disappear. She wrote back to one particularly insistent relative. "You suggest I retire, that I live quietly as a proper widow should, but I have 7 children to raise. I have Robert's music to share with the world, and I have a gift I did not choose, but one I will not waste. I will perform, I will work, I will survive. And if society finds that improper, then society is wrong." She made a decision. She would return to the stage, not in a few years, not when mourning was over, now. In October 1856, just 3 months after Robert's death, Clara accepted an invitation to perform at the Gewandhaus in Leipzig, the same hall where she had debuted as a 9-year-old prodigy, the same hall where she had proven her worth 100 times before. But this was different. This was a statement. The weeks leading up to the concert were torture. Clara hadn't practiced seriously in 2 years. Her fingers felt stiff, uncertain. The music that once came so naturally felt foreign. And the criticism was brutal. Newspaper articles questioned her decision. Is she desperate for money? Has she no shame? What kind of mother leaves her children to perform? Clara ignored them. She practiced, hour after hour, relearning pieces she had once known perfectly, fighting through grief and doubt and exhaustion. The children watched. Marie, the eldest at 15, tried to help. "Mama, maybe they're right. Maybe you should wait." Clara looked at her daughter. "I've waited my whole life. Waited for permission. Waited to be good enough. Waited for people to approve. I'm done waiting." The day of the concert arrived. October 26th, 1856. Clara stood backstage at the Gewandhaus. The same hall. The same curtain. But everything had changed. She wore black. Full mourning dress, her hair pulled back severely. No jewelry, no ornamentation. She could hear the audience taking their seats, hear the murmurs, the speculation, the judgment. The concertmaster approached. "Frau Schumann, are you ready?" Clara's hands trembled. Not from fear, from 2 years of grief, 2 years of silence, 2 years of being told she should disappear. "Yes," she said, "I'm ready." And that's where we began. That's the moment we opened with. Clara Schumann, widow-mother artist, walking onto the stage despite everything the world told her she shouldn't do. The lights hit her as she emerged from the wings. The audience hushed. 2,000 people watching, waiting, judging. Clara didn't look at them. She walked to the piano, sat down, adjusted her skirts, placed her hands on the keys, and she began to play Robert's Piano Concerto in a minor. The piece he had written years ago, when they were young and in love, and everything seemed possible. The first notes were soft, tentative, Clara's fingers remembering the patterns, the muscle memory returning. And then it came back, the music, the passion, the reason she had fought so hard to be here. Clara played, and she poured everything into it. Her grief, her love, her defiance, her refusal to be silent. The audience sat frozen. No one coughed. No one shifted. They just listened. Because what Clara was doing wasn't just performing. It was surviving. It was declaring. It was saying, "I am still here. I am still Clara. And you cannot erase me." The concerto built and built. The orchestra swelled behind her. Clara's fingers flew across the keys, playing passages that would challenge any pianist, proving that grief had not broken her, that loss had not destroyed her. The final movement, fast, furious, triumphant. Clara played the last chord, let it ring out, faded into silence. The audience held its breath. And then applause. Not polite applause, not obligatory applause, real applause, thunderous, overwhelming. People stood. Not one or two, all of them. 2,000 people on their feet, applauding, cheering, crying. Clara stood, took her bow, and for the first time in 2 years, she allowed herself to feel something other than grief. She felt pride. She had done it. She had survived. She had returned. And she had proven that Clara Schumann could not be silenced. The 1856 concert at the Gewandhaus wasn't just a comeback. It was a rebirth. Clara Schumann had stepped onto that stage as a widow bound by society's expectations, weighed down by tragedy. She walked off as something else entirely. An independent artist, a professional musician, a woman who would not disappear. The reviews the next morning were extraordinary. Critics who had questioned her decision now praised her courage. Audiences who had come out of morbid curiosity left as devoted fans. One review captured it perfectly. Frau Schumann has proven that true artistry cannot be dimmed by personal tragedy. She is not merely the widow of Robert Schumann. She is Clara Schumann, a master in her own right. Clara read those words and felt something unlock inside her. For so long, her identity had been tied to others. Friedrich Wieck's prodigy, Robert Schumann's wife, the mother of 7. Now, finally, she was simply Clara. The concerts continued. Not just one triumphant return, but dozens, then hundreds. Clara toured relentlessly. Germany, Austria, England, Russia, France. She became one of the most sought-after pianists in Europe. Her programs were distinctive. While other pianists played popular crowd-pleasers and flashy virtuoso pieces, Clara championed serious music. Beethoven, Bach, Chopin, and always Robert's compositions. She made it her mission to preserve Robert's legacy, to ensure his music wasn't forgotten, to prove to the world what she had always known, that Robert Schumann was a genius. Clara edited Robert's works, corresponded with publishers, advised young composers who came to her seeking guidance. She became the keeper of Robert's flame. But she never let Robert's shadow consume her own light. In 1878, Clara was appointed principal piano teacher at the Hoch Conservatory in Frankfurt. She was 59 years old and at the height of her powers. Teaching gave her a new purpose. She trained a generation of pianists, passing on her technique, her interpretations, her philosophy. Her students worshipped her. They called her Frau Professor and hung on her every word. Some were intimidated by her exacting standards, but all of them recognized they were learning from a living legend. Clara's teaching method emphasized musical truth over empty virtuosity. Don't play to show off, she would tell her students. Play to communicate. The audience should hear the composer's intention, not your ego. It was a philosophy she had learned the hard way through a childhood of being her father's performing monkey, through years of being judged on technical perfection rather than emotional authenticity. Now she could pass on a better way. Her home in Frankfurt became a gathering place for musicians. Young composers would visit playing their new works for her approval. Established artists would seek her advice. Johannes Brahms, who had been a close friend since the 1850s, remained devoted to her until his death. Brahms and Clara's relationship was deep, complex, perhaps even romantic in some way, though whether they ever crossed certain boundaries remains a mystery. What's clear is that Brahms loved Clara, loved her music, loved her strength, and Clara relied on his friendship more than perhaps anyone else's. As Clara aged, her life became a rhythm of teaching, performing, and remembering. She never remarried. Some people whispered about Brahms, speculated about secret feelings. But Clara was content with her independence. She had fought too hard for it to give it up. Her children grew up. Marie became Clara's assistant and companion. The others pursued their own paths, some in music, some not. There were struggles. Ludwig, always troubled, was eventually institutionalized, echoing his father's fate. Felix, the youngest, died young of tuberculosis. Clara bore these losses the way she bore everything else, with dignity, with work, with music. She kept performing into her 70s. Her last public concert was in Frankfurt on March 12, 1891. She was 71 years old. The program included Beethoven and Brahms. No Schumann this time. Clara's arthritis had progressed too far to handle Robert's demanding pieces. She walked onto the stage slowly, an old woman, now her hands gnarled, her back bent. But when she sat at the piano, something of the old Clara returned. The music was still there. Softer, perhaps. Less powerful, but no less meaningful. The audience knew they were witnessing history. This was the woman who had performed for Goethe, who had known Chopin and Liszt, who had survived scandal and tragedy and societal condemnation to become the most respected pianist of her age. When the final notes faded, the audience stood. They applauded not just for the performance, but for the life, for 61 years of concerts, for the battles won and the losses endured, for simply being Clara Schumann. Clara took her final bow, and then she retired. She lived 5 more years, taught when she could, corresponded with friends, watched over Robert's legacy. In March 1896, after attending a concert by her grandson, she suffered a stroke. On May 20th, 1896, Clara Schumann died in Frankfurt. She was 76 years old. Her funeral was a national event. Musicians came from across Europe. Students wept. The music world mourned. But Clara's legacy was already secure. She had changed what it meant to be a woman in music. Before Clara, female musicians were novelties, curiosities, lady pianists who played pretty pieces in parlors. After Clara, they were professionals, artists, equals. She proved that women could have careers, could support families through their art, could be taken seriously as interpreters and teachers and guardians of musical tradition. She proved that tragedy didn't have to end in silence, that grief could coexist with work, that mothers could be artists and artists could be mothers. She proved that when the world tells you to disappear, you can choose to be louder. Clara Schumann gave over 3,000 public performances in her lifetime. She premiered countless works. She trained generations of pianists. She preserved her husband's music while building her own unshakable reputation. And she did it all while fighting against a society that believed women like her shouldn't exist. So what do you do when the world tells you to disappear? Clara Schumann's answer was simple. You play. You walk onto that stage even when your hands shake, even when society says you're improper, even when grief threatens to swallow you whole. You play because the music is bigger than the judgment, because your voice matters, because silence is surrender, and you didn't fight this hard to surrender now. Clara's life was not easy. She was controlled by her father, lost her husband to madness, raised 7 children alone, and endured constant criticism for refusing to conform. But she never let the world reduce her to a tragedy. She was not just the daughter of Friedrich Wieck, not just the wife of Robert Schumann, not just the widow with 7 children. She was Clara Schumann, pianist, teacher, composer, pioneer. And she was enough. Her story matters because it reminds us that strength doesn't mean avoiding pain. It means choosing to move forward despite it. It reminds us that the roles others assign us, daughter, wife, mother, don't have to be the whole story. We can be more. We can be ourselves. It reminds us that when the world says women don't belong, the answer is not to shrink away. It's to prove them wrong. Loudly, repeatedly, unapologetically. Clara Schumann didn't just survive. She thrived. She built a legacy that lasted beyond her lifetime. She changed music history, and she did it by refusing to be silent. So the next time you feel the weight of expectation, the pressure to conform, the voice that tells you to be smaller, quieter, less. Remember Clara. Remember the woman who stood backstage at the Gewandhaus, trembling but determined, and walked toward the piano anyway. Remember that your voice matters, your music matters, your refusal to disappear matters. And then do what Clara did. Play. Clara Schumann's story is one of thousands of untold stories. Women who defied expectations, who changed the world, who refused to be forgotten. If this story moved you, if it inspired you, if it reminded you of your own strength, share it. Let others hear about Clara. Let her legacy continue. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories of people who changed the world by refusing to stay silent, subscribe to this channel, because there are so many more voices waiting to be heard. Clara Schumann proved that music can't be silenced. Neither can you.